Hi, and welcome to Razzball Radio for Thursday, June 19th. I am your host, Nick Apposi, and boy, did we score a good get today for our guest. Not that Sky isn't usually a good Thursday guest, but all the way from New Jersey, it's a pleasure to be joined by Derek Carty. Derek, welcome to Razzball Radio.
Hey Nick, thanks for having me.
Hey, Abs, are you kidding? Are you kidding? You know what? I'm going to make you blush in a minute here when I go over your resume. It's a pleasure that you're joining us, I assure you. And you know what, Derek, something interesting too. Derek was technically the first guest we ever had on Razzball Radio back in the spring. We went down to the LABR drafts in Phoenix. We were actually starting to shoot some tape for Razzball, and Derek was kind enough to join us back then. The problem was we didn't have anywhere to air it, but now luckily here we are. So, Derek, you ready to blush?
I guess so.
Okay. I just want to lay this out because I want you to know the level of fantasy baseball intelligence we're dealing with today. Derek, first of all, was the youngest champion ever of LABR, which is the League of Alternate Baseball Reality that's run by USA Today. Correct?
Correct.
Which is mind-blowing on its own. But here's something else that's really cool. You also went to scout school.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you are the only active fantasy analyst that actually went to scout school.
Yeah, there were a couple others who went at one point, but now they're like working for teams. Like Jason Gray is a scout now
Right.
for the Rays, and a couple guys like that. But yeah, I'm the only active one that's been there.
So, and I want to talk about combining stats and scouting when it comes to fantasy baseball. But first, what's it like at LABR, especially too for young, handsome guys like us? Because when I went down this year, I walked in and it was the first time, and I mean it was the who's who of fantasy experts: Larry Schechter, all the guys from Yahoo, Tristan Cockcroft. I could go on, but it was mind-blowingly impressive. How did you beat all these guys?
I think there was definitely a little bit of luck involved, but I think too, I think just, I don't know. I believe in my process. I believe in my process of, I come from a very stat heavy background. I was a fantasy manager for Baseball Prospectus and for the Hardball Times. So I really feel like I was like, like immersed in like this sabermetric culture, talking with guys who weren't just like, statistically inclined in the fantasy sense, but statistically inclined in, the baseball sense, guys who have consulted for clubs and worked for clubs and who are like the foremost sabermetricians out there. And I've talked with them, and, I've incorporated all of, what I've learned from all of that into the way I evaluate players. And then you combine that with the scouting, and I think you have an advantage. I
So,
mean, it's a small one because everyone knows what they're doing, but I like to think that I'm, one of the favorites when I go into those kind of drafts.
yeah, absolutely. So tell me how you are able to combine the scouting with the statistics, because I know for me personally, I mean, the stats is the key thing I'm looking at. I mean, I don't feel I have the skill set to judge players other than just kind of offhanded comments. But how do you actually combine that as a process?
It's okay. Let me give you an example. So, like, Garrett Richards
Yep.
is having a very good season, but last year his numbers were so-so. He had like a 6K per nine or something, an xFIP. His like expected ERA metrics were all like above 4. But I like Garrett Richards earlier this year, so I recommended him a couple times to my daily readers when he had good matchups, because what I liked about Garrett Richards is he throws a fastball that's 96 miles an hour with some life. His curveball is just ridiculous. His stuff is good. His stuff projects better than, a 6K per nine. So if I were to work that into a statistical model, I haven't been able to yet, but if I were going to, you can say, okay, we need to regress everyone's stats back to a certain mean. That's how, sabermetricians do it. But a lot of people just regress it back to the league average. But Garrett Richards doesn't have league average stuff. He has well above that. So you're not regressing Garrett Richards back to like the league average, like 6 or 7K per nine. You might regress him to like an 8K per nine because that's what his stuff says he should be. So like that's the kind of stuff that I I like to, that's how I like to approach, combining scats and scouting.
And I'm just curious too, because we do hear about scout school. I mean, what's it actually like, the experience of going to scout school?
It's amazing. I mean, I think, yeah, up there I have my straw scout school hat because it's hot as hell out there. It's 2 weeks in the Arizona desert, just on like backfields and stuff, like just watching guys play. And that's like half of your day. The other half of the day is you're working with all of the Major League Baseball Scouting Bureau instructors, and they're teaching you how to do it. They're, showing you video and like, okay, this is good, this is bad, this is what you need to be looking for. And then you're going out and you're doing it and you're writing your own scouting reports. And it's just an amazing experience. Like you're so just completely immersed in this for 2 full weeks, and it's incredible.
Is it something that anyone can sign up for? I mean, how does that work?
No, it's very exclusive. I got very lucky to get into it. Mostly, basically, like every team basically gets like two representatives that they get to send, and usually teams are, picky about who they're going to pick. It's going to be someone in their front office who they want, to get a better feel for scouting and a better understanding of it, or someone that they're training to be a scout for, their own club.
Right.
So basically, I just went around and I pestered half the teams in baseball until one of them said, "Okay, we'll send you."
Really?
Yeah.
Who'd you
I mean,
actually,
I
who'd you
had
go
like
with?
people who knew people in front offices, so like
Yeah.
I had introductions and I was lucky in that regard. But I just kind of lucked into one of the teams saying yes.
Can you tell us which team you actually went for?
Um,
That's okay
I
if you can't.
I'm not sure if I mean, it's been so long, I don't think they would care, but at the time, I think they said don't spread it around.
Okay, fair, understood. That's fair. So we're going to come back with Derek Carty here in a minute, talk a little bit more. We're going to also talk some daily fantasy with him, which is one of his specialties. You want to check out his website. It's Derek, Derek, Carty, Carty.com, and at Derek Carty on Twitter. So we'll be right back after this with more of Derek Carty on Razzball Radio. Okay, we're back with special guest today, Derek Carty. So, Derek, we talked a little bit about the expert drafts. We talked a little bit about Scout School. Let's talk a little bit about daily fantasy, because this, I think, is one area that you in particular have really um, uh, taken focused on, I guess is the best way to say it. What's kind of your take on daily fantasy? Do you have an overall strategy you use when you're playing?
My overall strategy really is just find as much value as you can and fit it into your lineup. I mean, that's at the core, that's what you need to do. And there's definitely, offshoot strategies based on the kinds of leagues you're playing in. Like if you're playing in a league against just a few people, you're going to want to play it a little bit safer because you don't have to, have a crazy score to win. But if you're in a league against, hundreds or thousands of people, maybe you want to take some high risk guys. Someone like maybe Adam Dunn, where when he has a good game, it's a home run with 3 RBIs and
Right.
he's getting up big points. But when he sucks, it's, 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. So those kind of guys are better taken in like big contests where you want to embrace that kind of variability.
Yeah, okay, that's a great way to describe it. What's your strategy when choosing pitchers? Because I think that's where a lot of guys get hung up. It's such a key position. Obviously, strikeouts are so highly valued, and again, especially if you're in some of the bigger games, you want to zig when everyone else is zagging. So, how do you approach that?
That's another thing where it's kind of contest dependent. Like in a cash game, like a head-to-head league, or like they call them double ups, 50-50s,
Yep.
where it's like, a smaller amount of players or where you don't need a crazy score to win. You just want a safe pitcher. Like last night, Clayton Kershaw had the best matchup. He's the best pitcher in baseball. No one expected him to do what he did, but he was clearly the guy that you needed to play in a cash game. There were other guys that you could consider, like Felix Hernandez, who's also an ace, but he was up against Andrew Kashner, so his chances of the win were less. So Kershaw was the guy last night. You don't get too cute about it. You just pick Kershaw, you put him in there, and you fill your hitters around him.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. By the way, what a performance by Kershaw last night. Of course,
It was ridiculous.
no hitter, 15 strikeouts. If it wasn't for that Hanley Ramirez error in the seventh, would have been a perfect game. My goodness. Um, One thing we do here with the Razzball Hot Sheet is we put out, statistically what we think are going to be some of the guys that, especially on the pitching side, that offer a higher return on investment. But when you're in the bigger leagues, are you looking more at a particular matchup, or are you looking at, let's say, someone's ability to strike out the lineup they're playing that day? I mean, how do you handle it that way?
I take a holistic approach to it. The past few years, I've been building this projection system. and it's basically a projection system tailored towards daily. It's a full, complete projection system underneath the hood, basically the way like a Pagoda or Zips or Steamer or
Right.
Oliver is. And then on top of that, I layer all these contextual factors that are relevant on a daily basis. Who the opposing player is, what their tendencies are, platoon splits, ballpark, home field advantage, who the umpire is, just like lineup position. There's so many things that go into it. Just everything that's possibly relevant contextually on a daily basis goes into this thing. And then my system synthesizes it all, puts it all together, and it spits out who it thinks the best values are that day and who the best plays overall are that day. And it's only been fully operational for the past couple weeks, but it's just been it's been so good. It's been dominating.
Okay,
The
where
guys
do we see it?
it's over at Fantasy Insiders right now. It's live. We just switched to a subscription model this week, so you'll get our analysis, all of the tools over there. Um, and then if you want to, grab the add-on of my projection system, I would highly recommend it because, I mean, the guys that have been using it, like the guys at Fantasy Insiders who've been testing it the past couple weeks, have made so much money off of it. Like, it's just been so good. And I really believe in it because I put so much time into it, and the methodology behind it is just so solid. I think, I mean, you're gonna make your money back tenfold.
Okay, well, this is
Maybe,
hard.
maybe that's over. Well, I don't even know if it is, but
So I want to ask you something else. I get a lot of guys reach out to me who want to do podcasts, whether it's a fantasy sports podcast or other, and they're always kind of picking my brain. Um, I mean, you've had so much success, and you've worked for such great publications like the Hardball Times, Baseball Perspective, and you're a young guy, and that's I can't think of a better way to compliment you. Is you've had so much success so early. If you've got guys out there, or if there are guys out there that want to get involved and want to start writing or want to get more involved in fantasy or working with baseball, I mean, what are some good tips for some young guys out there?
I think it's tough because this is a very competitive industry. There's a lot of guys who know what they're doing, and especially initially, there's not a lot of money in it. You need to be willing to just get your foot in the door however you can. Start writing is the biggest thing. Start writing, start developing your voice, start figuring out what you have to say and how you want to say it. And just if you have to put up your own little blog, I mean, that's how I started. Just do it and just start writing and, network. Try to meet as many people as you can and just look for opportunities and take whatever you can get and just try to work your way up.
And that's a great way, actually. That's a good point. The GM meetings this year are in San Diego, and a lot of the winter meetings, sorry, a lot of guys who do want to get involved in baseball. I mean, that's one of the key ways to do it is to actually go to the meetings and go and network, shake hands, kiss babies. Did you ever do that? Did you ever go to the off-season meetings and try and network?
I haven't. I thought about going this year. They were down in Orlando, and I really wanted to go. But I've never gone to those, mostly because I don't know. I feel like a lot of that is if you aspire to be in like a major league front office, or in like a major like working for like major league teams, not necessarily fantasy in some capacity. And I don't know if I necessarily aspire to that, but I've definitely gone to um, like first pitch Arizona when I was very very young, breaking into it, and like networking with like the fantasy guys, like the Ron Chandlers of the world, and those kinds of people. So I think it's important to those kind of conferences, especially if you want to be a fantasy specific writer. Coming and getting to know all of us fantasy guys is important.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, when I did go down to the labor thing, I mean, it was kind of mind blowing, and I felt like a kid in a candy store. And look, I'm not a fantasy expert. Okay, I talk into this thing. I drive the bus. That's it. But being around those guys, you just absorb so much and learn so much. And I got to say too, I mean, everyone was so fantastic. They were so great and willing to help and willing to get involved in some capacity. So, as you are today, Derek, and we really appreciate it. So again, you want to check him out, derekcarty.com. Of course, you can find his system, not system, but what's your I want to say algorithm, but I've been watching too much Silicon Valley.
It's a projection system. I've been calling it Batman myself because and I've worked a little like anagram into it, but mostly because Batman's awesome, and because Batman has like all these gadgets and tools and stuff, and that's what this system really is. I don't think I'm gonna be allowed to actually call it that,
Yeah, I don't
legally.
think so.
but that's what I've been referring to it myself for the past few years. But yeah, it's at Fantasy Insiders, and I couldn't recommend it more.
All right, and follow him on Twitter at Derek Carty, DerekCarty. Derek, really appreciate you joining us on Razzball Radio today.
Thanks a lot.
Take care. And we're back on Razzball Radio. It is Thursday, so we're joined, as usual, by Guru. Of course, we didn't talk to Sky today because we were lucky enough to have Derek Carty on. Real smart guy, knows his daily fantasy, so that was a great chat we had with him. But we're very happy to have the Guru at the Guru GS. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Nick, and I've got to lead things off today by saying I'm just a little disappointed with you, as we had a little side wager going the other night. It was a little T-shirt throwdown, and whoever finished, worse had to wear a terrible tacky T-shirt. And we agreed that we would wear it on Thursday. Now here we are, and I see you're not wearing your tacky T-shirt.
All right, I want to be clear. I am not a welcher, okay? You were supposed to FedEx it to me. You were supposed to overnight it to me. So I was waiting, and you even picked it out. It was a Golden Girls T-shirt. I would have worn it. I was ready.
All right, Nick. Well, I'll just say that I am a little disappointed that you've brought some shame to your family, your rich heritage, all of Canada, and more importantly, you've brought some shame upon yourself, Nick.
I'm not. Listen, man. I'm telling you. Okay, we'll talk about it. I will absolutely not welch. There we go. It's in the notes.
Okay, it's the least you can do, man, because I'm always on time for the show, despite the early hour for me. I'm prepared, well dressed.
It's midday on the East Coast.
I have pants on. I'm reasonably sober. You wear that shirt when you get it.
Yeah, okay. You're not wearing pants, though. We know that, unfortunately. All right, let's play a little bit of Jammer Cram. We might do an accelerated version today just to keep the time. So let's kick off with Derek Norris, catcher for the Oakland Athletics. He's had some competition there, obviously, because JSO's been getting a lot of at-bats, and they're so big on the platoons in Oakland. But talk to me about Derek Norris.
We've talked about Norris before, and I was looking through the Razzball Player Rater, where you can find that on Razzball.com. Shameless plug, hooray. And every player in the top 60 is 100% owned, except one player, Derek Norris.
Interesting.
I ask you, Razzballers, Razzaholics, and chronic Razturbators, what in the name of Steve Balboni is going on here? I get like 45 questions every week, and Derek Norris is less than 50% owned, has a better average, more homers, more runs, more RBI than Joe Mauer, Brian McCann, and Sal Perez. I mean, it's not like it's a strict Platoony Tunes here. He actually has more at-bats versus righties this year. So I'm going to make a bold prediction here and say that Norris is going to make the All-Star team.
Wow.
And he is a must Razzball jam.
Okay, absolutely. That is a brave call. And I think, too, JSO, people say JSO in the lineup a lot, but he DHs a lot as well. So you have to factor that in when you are looking at Norris. I'm with you 100% on jamming Norris. Been in on him all year. This one's an easy one, and I know the answer in advance, so I'll give you a pre-jam. Jake Arrieta. This is the most amazing stat. First of all, he's 31% owned. That is wrong. It's
criminal.
Just wrong, people. Wrong. Jake Arrieta has given up more than one earned run twice this year. 31% owned.
That is true, and that's why he's in our Jammer Cram pile today. I mean, all right, he's got a career ERA that's around 6, but, old Jake from State Farm has been anything but hideous. He struck out a career high 11 and tossed 7 innings in the win over the Marlins. And in his last 3 starts, he has 18 strikeouts and 58 at-bats, 30% ownership. That is criminal. He's been a top 20 pitcher for over a month. Come on, more people own Clay Buchholz, who's not even pitching. Jake Arrieta is a jam.
Absolutely. Talk to me about Tommy La Stella. There wasn't much hype when he came up. He's an interesting hitter, but I didn't project him for much. But he's on the list today, Guru. So talk to me about Mr. La Stella.
Yeah, is this where I'm supposed to do like my Brando in Streetcar Named Desire impression? Not going to happen. I could probably do a Last Tango in Paris impression, but I'm all out of butter. But when it comes to When it comes to Olastella, he's been one of the top ads over the past week, and he deserves it. You know, middle infield is pretty thin. We've been talking about that lately. And Olastella, he's not going to give you a lot of homers. He'll be solid in average, solid in runs. If you're an OPS league, that's a good place for him too. He's hitting 364 over his first 25 games, 6 runs, 6 RBI. Don't expect, the second coming of, Dustin Pedroia. But LaStella is no Dan Ugla either. I'm going to give him a middle infield jam.
All right. Well, this is interesting. Well, we got nothing but jam so far today. Real quick, we've only got about a minute left here. Chase Headley, what's the story?
Oh, we go from the jams to Chase Headley. I was surprised to see his name popping up on the transaction list over the past week. Yeah, he's a couple years removed from a 30-homer, 100 RBI season where he hit 286, but those days are long gone. He's hitting 202. He has 6 homers. I don't see him turning things around. Over the last 3 years, the walk rate is going down, the K rate is going up. His OPS and isolated power numbers are all at career lows. So, unless you're in a Chase Headley only league, it's a cram.
All right. Listen, Guru, really appreciate you joining us. Sorry we were tight on time today.
No problem.
Let me ask you a question, though. What are you doing tomorrow, real quick? Are you available tomorrow? Might need you to pinch hit because Rudy's wife might be having a couple little Afro twins. So
a couple of baby Rudies?
Couple baby Rudies, baby. So you know what? We won't jam or cram. We'll do In the News with you tomorrow, buddy. Sound good?
Yeah, I'll pinch hit.
All right, good stuff. All right, we're out of here for Razzball Radio today. Thank you very much for joining us. I am at Dick Capozzi. He is at the Guru GS. And special thanks to Derek Carty for joining us today as well. We'll see you tomorrow.